All right, folks, we're going to move right along. We welcome back to the show Dan Brouillette, former U.S. Energy Secretary, and Steve Moore, host of More Money on WABC Radio. Dan Brouillette, how long before we starve them out? And, you know, I went through some numbers. The potential losses from the blockade, they're bigger. They're 50% bigger than Iran's entire budget. Now, I don't know what that means exactly. I don't know what these numbers mean exactly, but they're pretty big numbers. And after a week or two, they're going to have to, top out their oil storage facilities. They're going to have to shut down the nuts and the bolts. That's going to create great damage to their oil reservoir. I mean, maybe economic and financial war is going to be the final coup de grace here, Dan Brouillette.
It very well could be, Larry, and I think the numbers you articulated earlier, roughly $400 million or so in oil exports, don't even begin to touch what they're importing from around the world as well. So we have to calculate that as well. When the president announced that he was going to blockade or block the Straits of Hormuz, that traffic goes both ways, both export and import. So we'll have to wait and see what that does to the Iranian economy. But I was looking at a few numbers today. It could very well accelerate the financial crisis related to their currency. I saw some stories today that banks are starting to limit withdrawals to somewhere between $18 and $30 a day. If that's true, and we're looking at inflation in Iran topping 50%, we could see a currency collapse very, very quickly. And that adds, again, a new level of economic pressure to Iran.
Now, Steve Moore, the other side of the coin is, what's that do to the American economy? So I will posit, first of all, the CPI inflation report we got Friday, really outside of the energy in the war, was very benign. So that's not the problem. Financial markets have reacted relatively well. I mean, today, actually, the stocks are up a little bit. Oil popped up. It's hovering, I'll call it $100 a barrel. Okay. But basically, there's no new catastrophe here, but it may take longer. Financial, budgetary bankruptcy and starvation may take longer with oil and gasoline at these levels, Steve. So what's your take on the impact for the American economy?
Well, first of all, I think, Larry, the most important thing is that the markets are just so hungry, thirsty for good news about Iran, which is going to come. It's going to come. I don't know if it's going to come in 3 days or 5 days or in the next few weeks, but it is coming. Trump will win. And when he does, you're going to see an explosion. You're going to see the most joyous rally you ever saw in the market when that day comes. And again, whether it's 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, I don't know, but it will come. And that will solve so many problems. You will also see, in my opinion, and the Secretary is more of an expert on this than I am, but I think you could see that oil price, which is now, covering around 100, I think you should see it right back to about $70 a barrel within a matter of weeks. And so this is really just a very temporary situation with so many of the other things in the economy going right. I remember at the start of the year, you and I, Larry, said we were going to see a blockbuster 2026, and I still believe the second half of this year, because of tax cuts and other things, could be exactly that.
Dan Brouillette, I don't want to be too optimistic or too pessimistic, because I think longer term, Steve Moore is going to be exactly right. But it just strikes me that this thing could last longer. And I think President Trump has said as much, talking about his economic advisors during his interview with Maria Bartiromo. I don't know if we have any of that tape or not. But the fact is, it may take longer. And this will not come as easily. And I think you kind of have to be, as Mr. Trump was over the weekend, you really have to be honest with the American people, don't you?
No, you do. And I think the president has been. Look, I think there is a plan. It will come to an end. I do think the president understands that, what's happening here is that, you don't have equivalent risk, I should say. We have spent a lot on this war. Americans have paid a high tax. We're paying more per gallon in refined gasoline and diesel today than we did just 2 months ago. We have spent an enormous amount of money on the national defense. We have sailors, we have Marines on the ground there. Those are very high stakes. You don't cash those in at half price. The president will finish this job. He has said he would, and I believe that he will. And I think that is the right answer. The strait must be open. It will be open. And I think the best case outcome here is going to be that it's opened under American control. And when that happens, to Steve's point, oil will drop. It will come down back to where it was, perhaps even lower. I could see prices somewhere around $55 or $60 a barrel, and we'll start to see refined products follow that. And importantly, Larry, just another point, all the petrochemical products and the fertilizer products and everything else that's dependent upon this one strait, those prices begin to come down as well.
Steve Moore, before we let you go, there's a priceless clip today of Mr. Trump ordering some DoorDash food. I want to play the clip and then get your take on it. This is a wonderful moment.
Well, I want to thank you,
Thank you very
for
much.
the no tax on tips.
Oh, that's good.
It has helped my family out immensely, and I definitely appreciate it.
Well, there's someone that understands what tax-free tips. There's a lady's been working for DoorDash. She went right to the Oval Office to make delivery. Mr. Trump was his usual gracious self, Steve Moore. At least somebody's helped selling the Republican tax cut plan.
Well, listen, I think people are overjoyed about what's happening. This is tax season. A lot of people wait to the last minute to fill out their taxes, and they're starting to see the incredible effects of Trump beautiful bill in terms of, less tax on their overtime, less tax on the Social Security, less tax on tips. And that is both a supply side and a demand side incentive to the economy to grow faster. By the way, you're a little more skeptical than I am that this can be over with quickly. But if it's going to take longer, and they're going to do this reconciliation bill, Larry, which I think you and I favor. Let's put some economic growth stimulants in that,
Yes.
like the indexing of capital gains taxes.
Yes.
That'll have a very positive impact on the economy and the stock market.
Sometimes referred to as the Kudlow plan, but we've got to have a skinny reconciliation bill is a really lousy idea. Anyway, that was a great ad for tax-free tips and tax cuts, a good ad. And Mr. Trump was very gracious. Dan Brouillette, thank you so much. Steve Moore, appreciate it.